Hi, and welcome to the American Chestnut Foundation's Chestnut Chat. Today's topic is cooking with chestnuts. I'm Kathy Patrick, and I have Marty Cipollini with me. In keeping with our food-themed event, our agenda is actually a menu today. So here's what we're going to be enjoying. So we'll start off with introductions. Then we're going to move to two videos, one about roasting chestnuts and the other about shelling chestnuts. Then we're going to move on to our first course, which is chestnut soup. Then we'll have chestnut pasta with sage butter sauce. And for dessert, there's chestnut blondies. So first up, introductions. As I said, I'm Kathy Patrick, and I am the president of the Georgia chapter of the American Chestnut Foundation. I had a long career in software and high-tech sales, and then in 2009, I reinvented myself in the second career, which was way more fun than high-tech sales, and I became a personal and entertainment chef, and I am the owner of Meals on Heels. I've done a lot of fun cooking, met some interesting people. I'm not professionally trained, but it's always been a passion of mine, and I really, really enjoy cooking. With me is Marty Cipollini, who is a Dana Professor of Biology at Berry College in Rome, Georgia. He is the treasurer of the Georgia chapter of the American Chestnut Foundation. He's also the science coordinator. And Marty has done so many things with chestnut. He's a real pillar of our chapter, and he has worked with many of his Berry College students, getting them involved in the chestnut program and helping them as interns. And Marty is also Mr. Kathy Patrick.
Hi there. I'm over here.
So let's go on and get started with how to get into chestnuts so that you can really enjoy them. So there's two videos here. The first one shows you how to roast chestnuts. And you need to know that once you've roasted them, they are ready to go, ready to eat. They're fully cooked and they're delicious. The video on shelling chestnuts is actually using the boiling technique. And while the chestnuts, when you're finished boiling them, they are edible, they are not actually fully cooked, and they would be ready for use in recipes in which they're going to be cooked. So let's move on. Again, the first video is roasting chestnuts. So let me show you that video. Now we're going to talk about roasting chestnuts, and we're going to use the cast iron skillet method over an open flame on the stove. But there's other ways for you to roast chestnuts, like a pan in a hot oven or in a basket on the grill. Either way, however you roast them, the way you prep the nuts and the way you peel them is the same. Here we have some American chestnuts from Georgia. They're smaller than the commercial Chinese and European chestnuts, but they're not too difficult still. So you need to score making an X through the shell. And here Marty's using the curved blade from a wine opener. It's a sturdy blade, it's curved, it makes it easier to make the X. So you want to score the hull. You don't want to go too deep into the meat of the nut, but you want to make sure you get a full and complete X. There are other devices available to cut the hulls. There's specific chestnut knives and even some machines, but this little tool that you probably have in your house works just fine. So once you get the nuts scored, you're going to put them in a hot skillet over an open flame, and you're going to shake them every now and then. Regardless of how you roast them, whether you're using the oven or the grill or the skillet, keep your eye on them and watch for the X to begin splitting. The nuts will start plumping, and the hulls become brown and even a little blackened. So once you see all those things happening, they are ready. So while they're still warm, put them on your work surface and remove the hulls using either your fingers or the knife. Try to remove the hull and also the thin skin that's inside. Sometimes that's no problems, and sometimes it's a little more difficult. But you do want to try to get rid of that skin because it can be a little tough. So you work on them, and let's see, this one is coming apart. Nope, it's being a little difficult. Let's try another one. So this one came away cleanly, so that's an easy one. So just make sure you get them all the hulls and the skins off of them. And that's all there is to it. They will be ready for you to eat and enjoy. Okay, so hopefully you're all set now to know how to roast chestnuts and have some delicious snacks. So the next thing we're going to do is move on to a simple method of peeling chestnuts, which, as I said, uses the boiling method. And again, the chestnuts will not be fully cooked. They're still good to eat, but this is the better method if you're going to be using the chestnuts in other recipes like the chestnut soup that I'm going to show you. So let me show you this video. So we need to get the chestnuts out of their shells before we can use them. So today we're going to show you how to do that. So here are some American chestnuts. They are smaller and furrier. They have tails, and they have basically 10 to 20% fat, so that makes them seem like they taste sweeter. These are Chinese. They're larger, they're shinier, they don't have the tail, and essentially they have no fat. So we are going to show you how to get the Chinese chestnuts out of the shell. So make sure that you find the flat side. Put the flat side down on your cutting board. That's really important so you don't risk them sliding around. Sometimes there's two flat sides. That's fine. Just make sure you get one of them. Take a sharp knife, a big heavy knife preferably, and slice straight through it. Don't saw it. Put your other hand on it and put some weight and cut the nut in half. Once you have the nuts cut in half, you're going to have a small pan of water boiling. You're going to put the nuts in there and let them boil for about 3 minutes. And once you're done with them boiling, you're going to strain them. And then while they're still pretty hot, you're going to put them on the work surface. And taking a pair of pliers, either electrician or needle nose pliers, then you should be able to peel the shell and the skin right off. In this case, the skins are coming. It may be that the shell goes off, but you still have a thin skin. You need to get that off using whatever sharp instrument you can and being careful, because that's a little tough and you want to make sure to get the skin off of it. So these did a beautiful job of coming apart. And once we once we have the shells and the skins off, these nuts are then ready to be used in recipes. So these are not fully cooked. This is the process to get the shell off, and then from here you would use them in recipes where there will be more cooking. So you can bag these up, seal them, and they will last for a couple of days before you're ready to use them, or you can put them in the freezer and they will last several months. Enjoy your chestnuts! Alrighty, so hopefully you're all set on how to get these delicious taste treats out of their shells and into either your mouth or your recipes. Next up, I'm going to show you how to make chestnut soup. So here are the chestnut soup ingredients. Starting from the rear left, I have coarsely chopped some chestnuts that we boiled to get them out of the shell. Then moving to the right, that's actually vegetable stock, but you can use vegetable or chicken stock or broth. Then I have chopped carrots, chopped celery, a couple of fresh thyme sprigs, a cup of ruby port wine, half a stick of butter, half a cup of heavy cream, and then right in the middle are some chopped onions. So let's get started. So you want to take a medium saucepan and put it on the stove and add the butter, let it melt, and then add the carrots, celery, and onions all chopped. And you're going to saute them until they are soft, which should be about 10 minutes. Once you feel the vegetables are soft, then add the chestnuts and give them a stir and saute them with the vegetables for about 4 minutes. Next up, you're going to add the cup of port and the thyme sprigs to the soup, and you're going to cook it until the port is reduced by about half, which should take around 4 minutes. After you've reduced the port, add the broth and partially cover the pan and cook it over low heat at a simmer for about 30 minutes. Once you've done that, then remove and discard the thyme sprig. Take the pot off the heat and add the cream. And then we're going to blend it, and you have your choice of using either an immersion or a regular blender. My immersion blender is a little bit better and a better quality machine, and it's a little easier for me to use. So that's what I'm going to use. But if you have a regular blender that you like, or if you prefer the consistency or texture of your soup to maybe be a little silkier and more pureed, then the regular blender might do better. If you do use a regular blender, just be aware the soup is hot. Do not fill the blender jar up beyond half. In fact, less than half is better. So do it in small batches. Have a tea towel that you put over the lid of the blender jug and put your hand on it and hold that lid down as you turn the power on. And you want to start at the lowest speed and then gradually go up to higher speeds in the regular blender. If you're using the immersion blender like I did, then I think the easiest thing is to sit the blender a little bit on the side, make sure the blades are submerged, and in a circular motion, go through the pot with the blender running. Then stop it, take a spatula and stir it up so you figure out where the chunks are, and then continue blending and stirring until you have it at the smoothness that you want. Then you're going to, I can't remember if I told you to put the cream in it, and you put the cream in before you do the blending. Sorry if I didn't say that. Then once you have it blended, then you're going to put it back on the stove because it will lose heat. It'll be a little bit cooler than you want for serving it. So put it back on the stove at a low temperature. All right, then we're ready to serve it. I'm going to show you two ways. This is using little mini cups for a cute appetizer. These are actually sake cups. And your guests could either drink a little bit out of that cup, or there are mini spoons available on the market, and you can garnish it with, in this case, I just use a little fresh chives. You could use green onion tops, you could use parsley, you could use finely chopped sage, cilantro, whatever you like to top it. And then here's another serving idea. This is using some pottery bowls. I have a nice collection of local artist pottery bowls. And so if you wanted to use these small bowls as an appetizer, just don't fill them quite as full. If you want to make it a lunch or dinner size portion, then fill them up. And again, you can garnish with whatever you want. A nice drizzle of maybe some sage or basil flavored oil would be good. A little crack of fresh pepper. So whatever you like, but enjoy. Next up is chestnut pasta with the sage butter sauce. So this is going to be homemade pasta, and in this we use chestnut flour instead of fresh chestnuts. So here's Marty to show you how to make the chestnut pasta and sage butter sauce. So there's the finished product, and let's get started on showing you how to begin. Homemade pasta is a real treat, but homemade chestnut pasta is a special treat. Today, Marty's going to show us how to make chestnut pasta with a butter sage sauce. So we have 2½ cups of bread flour, a cup of chestnut flour, some salt, a couple tablespoons of oil, 4 eggs, and you might want to have a little water on hand in case the dough appears dry. So we're going to put the 2 kinds of flours in a mixing bowl, and we're going to use a whisk and whisk the flours together. Once you've got them mixed well, put the flours on your work surface in the shape of a little volcano with a hole in the center. And into the hole we're going to add 4 eggs, the oil, a couple pinches of salt, and then we're going to incorporate the wet ingredients to the dry ingredients. So kind of mush it around and get it started into what's going to become a nice ball of dough. So once you have the dough, if it feels that it's dry, you can add little sprinkles of water to it. But basically you're going to start kneading it. So you're using the heels of your hands to press down, fold over, press down, fold over, and make sure that you're incorporating all the little bits and pieces on the edges. So you're going to do this for about 10 minutes. And once you're done kneading, you're going to put the ball of dough in a bowl, cover it with a tea towel, and let it sit for about 30 minutes. Once it's done, then cut about a baseball size, half a baseball size piece of dough, put it on your floured work surface, and with a rolling pin, roll it out, turn it, get it more floured, roll it some more, then cut it in half. And we're going to put it in a pasta machine on the thickest setting and gradually take down the settings so the dough becomes thinner and thinner. So put it on the next setting, roll it through, make the setting a little bit smaller, roll it through. If you don't have a pasta machine, you can use a rolling pin and roll it in small sections until each section becomes about the thickness of a dime. But these pasta machines are really handy. So we're gonna get it nice and thin. I think this is gonna be the last time. Get it in there. It's getting long and skinny and thin. And now that we have it in its very thin, long format, we're going to cut it into noodles. So we have a cutting attachment on the pasta machine. So we're going to roll it through. If you don't have a pasta machine, you can use a knife and just cut these into long, thin strips or whatever shape you like. Then once you have the noodles cut, they need to dry. We have this pasta dryer. But before we got the pasta dryer, we would drape the noodles over the backs of our kitchen chairs. So while you've been doing this, hopefully you have got a pan with the butter ready to start the sauce. So the recipe calls for 1 sage leaf. The sage that we have growing is kind of small, so I use several leaves. You're going to put the leaves in the butter and let it cook till it starts to be aromatic, maybe about a minute and a half, and then remove the sage leaves. Then you should have a pot of boiling water. You're going to add the fresh pasta slowly and carefully to the water. It's going to want to overflow, so go slowly and make sure you don't let it spatter on you and burn you. So the pasta cooks quickly, maybe about 2 minutes. Keep an eye on it, taste it, test it, and then drain it. And then you're going to serve up some of the noodles in the bowl. Put some of the sage butter over top, a little bit of chopped fresh parsley, some freshly ground Parmesan, and a crack or two of pepper. And there you have a delicious dinner. Enjoy! So that pasta dish is delicious, I can tell you from firsthand experience. It may seem like extra work to make the homemade pasta, but it's totally, totally worth it. Next on our menu is dessert. So we're going to make some chestnut blondies. And here are the ingredients. So starting at the rear left, we have brown sugar, and then there's coconut, the chestnut flour, salt, baking powder, a stick and a half of butter, 2 eggs, some vanilla, white chocolate chips, and then some chopped fresh chestnuts that we took out of the shell. So to get started, you're going to begin by toasting the coconut. So you want to preheat the oven to 350, spread the coconut out on a baking sheet, and put it in the oven for about 7 minutes. Be sure to set a timer and don't go anywhere. You need to keep your eye on the coconut. It takes a while for it to start cooking or start turning colors, but once it does, it tends to go really quickly. So you need to stay close and keep an eye on it. When it's ready, the coconut should be golden brown and it should smell delicious. Next up, you need to prepare your pan for the blondies. So I used a glass 9x13 cake pan, and you want to make a tinfoil sling. So basically, you're going to take 2 large pieces of tinfoil and you're going to fold each of them so that they are the width and the length of the pan, and it'll overlap. So the pieces of foil are opposing to one another. Put them in the pan and tuck the foil into the corners of the pan. Once you get it all set, then spray it with cooking spray. And now we're going to get started. So the first thing, you take 1 bowl and you're going to whisk the flour, the baking powder, and the salt together, and then leave that be. Then get a second bowl and you're going to whisk the butter, which you have melted. I've just melted it in like 30-second increments in the microwave in a little ramekin. So take the melted butter and the brown sugar and whisk them together. Then you're going to lightly beat the 2 eggs in their own bowl and then add the eggs and the vanilla to the bowl that has the butter and sugar. Take your whisk and mix that all together, and then you're going to take the bowl with the dry ingredients and fold those into the wet ingredients and stir them until it's all just combined. Once you have that combined, then you're going to fold in the white chocolate chips, the toasted coconut, and the chestnuts. You're going to mix it till it's combined, and then you're going to spoon it into the prepared pan. Now this is kind of a thick batter, so you got to make sure that you spread it out, get it into all the corners of the pan, and then do take the back of the spatula and smooth it on top so that you have a nice, pretty looking pan when you're done. Then you're going to put these in the oven, and you're going to bake them at 350 for 22 to 25 minutes or until they're set. With our oven, it took a little bit longer. I think I went like 27 or 28 minutes. So just you be the judge of that. Take them out of the oven and put them either on I use the iron burner on our stove, or you can put it on those racks like you cool cookies on. You just want to get the air to circulate underneath the pan, the room temperature air. And you want to make sure that these are completely cool before you try to take them out of the pan. I rushed mine and I took them out when they were still kind of lukewarm, and they did crack. It's not the end of the world, but if you are going for blondies that you can cut with a nice even cut, make sure that you wait for them to be all the way cool. So once they are cool, you can grab the bottom piece of foil, the sling, and lift it out onto your cutting board. Kind of spread the foil out, slide the big block of blondies out onto your cutting board and discard the foil, and then cut them into squares. So once you've got them cut into squares, grab your American Chestnut Foundation mug full of coffee and savor some real chestnut goodness. And after all that cooking, I can tell you that Marty and I, ate the fruits of our labor. So as you can see, we each have a little bowl of the chestnut soup, and we have a plate of the chestnut pasta with the sage butter sauce on it. And you'll never know if we actually ate the chestnut blondies for dessert or not, but I can tell you that they're delicious. So it was a great dinner, and we really enjoyed showing you how to make all this, and we even more enjoyed eating it all. So in closing, thank you so much for joining us on this chestnut chat. I hope you learned a lot and had some fun, and I wish you could have been smelling some of these smells through the computer, because it really was delicious. I hope that you have many delicious chestnut treats in your future. Hope you keep cooking with chestnuts. If you have any questions, or if you want to ask me anything, here's my email, mskathypatrick@gmail.com, and I'd be happy to answer any questions or cover any things that you want to talk about. The recipes and the videos are posted on the American Chestnut Foundation Chestnut Chat webpage. So thanks again for joining, and keep cooking with chestnuts.